Hey, this is Leo. So we're going to talk about Bitcoin. We're going to determine whether the crypto bear market has ended or whether there's more pain to come. My bias is that the bottom is in. There's quite a few other people out there that believe that we could be seeing lower lows for Bitcoin going down 10, 12,000. To me, the evidence just isn't there for that. So let's go ahead and dive in here and kind of talk about it. So the first thing that I want to say is that within a trend, right, meaning that you're making higher highs and higher lows and higher highs and so on, you would trade that trend until the trend fails. And if you look at Bitcoin's entire history, I'll go out to the 1 week chart here. Where is it? That trend hasn't failed yet, so you made higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. You get the idea. We're still trending higher over time, even though every 4 years we end up having these bear markets for Bitcoin where we see these massive drops. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. So now that you understand trends and why you shouldn't go against the current. It's kind of like if you're in a river, it's easier to float down the river, follow the current, follow the trend, than to try to swim upstream. It's just not something that's you want to keep it simple. You want to make your life easier. Just float down the river, enjoy the float, look at the mountains and whatnot. Don't try to swim upriver. You're going to be exhausted and you're going to end up drowning because you're exhausted. So anyway, getting a little sidetracked here. So whenever you're looking at trends, what you can do is you can look for similarities from prior price action, and you can see it unfold in current price action. So what do I mean by that? Well, if we come in here and we look at the 2018 bear market, you can come up here to the high, and I'm just going to measure a date range, right? So from the point which it broke down was about 331 days. So what I see here is essentially just sideways consolidation, right? You have this period where Bitcoin is just chopping sideways. Granted, there was this large uptick to 20K in the beginning, but then after that, we kind of just fell down and we were just beating against this resistance here before price finally broke down. Now, we're in a very similar period, I believe, where price had been chopping sideways, right? So there's your trading range where it just chopped along there. And if we measure the time, I'm going to measure from the first peak, right? Because I measured from the first peak here, so that's what I'm going to do on this one. Well, I guess this would technically be your absolute high, but that's kind of part of the correction. So I'm going from this one because I believe that this was the actual high and we have some sort of a expanded correction going on here. So anyway, so going forward to the point where it broke down, you can see 389 days. Previous one was 331 days. So very interesting, very similar sideways consolidation patterns. You then end up seeing prices break down to where they bottom on both charts, right? And then you get another period of this sideways consolidation at the lows. So we moved sideways here for about 109 days before we started breaking out. We started the new bull market. If you come over here, we moved sideways for about 119 days. Haven't broken up yet, but I am expecting us to break higher, not lower. I'm not really seeing anything unless something absolutely catastrophic happens to bring prices lower. Some people are comparing the sideways price action that we're in now to this period in Bitcoin's price action. But the problem is that they aren't comparable in time. They aren't comparable in the magnitude, the size of them. It's just not similar. You can see how this period of sideways range-bound consolidation is very similar to this one. Then you get the break, right? We saw the break in June. Prices came down to their low. Prices came down to their low back in 2018. So what else can we look at here to say that, okay, well, the bottom is most likely in? Well, if you look at the pi cycle indicator, which some people use, is you have these two EMAs, and essentially once they cross, that's signaling the Bitcoin bear market has ended, and whenever they cross again, it means that it's bullish. So if we come back to the beginning of Bitcoin, you can see how well, so here's the bottom from the 2015 bear market. You can see that they crossed, and then once they crossed again, that signaled the bull run. You can see they did the same thing in 2018 where they crossed, that signaled the bottom, then they crossed again, and that signaled the bull run. They crossed, signaling the bottom, going in line with what happened last time, and what's just the trend. The trend is continuing on. So what else can we look at to give us a clue as to whether the bottom is in? If you give me just 1 second, delete this stuff here, and we can start looking at the next part. Okay, so up here you'll notice that I've got some yellow and green lines. The green lines are the halvings, which is where the Bitcoin block reward is halved in half. So if the block reward is 50 Bitcoin for every block that gets distributed to the miners, at the halving it drops down to 25, which decreases the sell pressure, and with the increasing demand, it causes prices to go up. It's typically what triggers the bull runs. So you'll notice that after each green line, the prices skyrocket, right? Green line, Bitcoin halving, skyrockets. This is why I talk about Ethereum and the triple halving that just happened. I'm expecting the bull run to start. There's a little bit of a lag here typically, so you notice it doesn't start immediately at the halving. There's a little bit of sideways. A lot of times it'll even drop quite a bit, which we just saw with Ethereum, and then the supply crunch hits and prices go crazy. So where are we right now? Well, obviously we had our previous halving here in May of 2020, and then prices shot up. And so now the yellow lines represent the halfway point in between the halving. So 2 years after a Bitcoin halving. Halvings occur every 4 years. So you'll notice that, let me make this one a little brighter. I have it dimmed. You'll notice that the bottom typically occurs not too far, about a third of the way through after the halfway point of the halving. So here we bottomed. About a third of the way through, we bottomed. Oh, look, we're coming up to that 1/3 point in between the halfway halving and the next halving. So we're getting within the proper time range to where the bottom should be, well, bottoming. So a couple of things could happen here, right? So we pop up a little bit. We kind of trade sideways, slowly gaining momentum, kind of like what we did back here. We kind of traded sideways, popped up a little bit, and then we really got going once the halving occurred, and that's whenever things really ripped. Or here we ripped quite hard, but then we had the Rona scare, and prices plummeted, but then we shot back up very quickly as the halving went through. So, how the price action plays out in between here, it's hard to say. I think Ethereum is going to be a lot more bullish just because it's already had its halving, whereas Bitcoin has to wait until May 2024 for its halving. Okay, so what else can we look at to tell us that is the bottom in? Well, if we look at the RSI, you'll notice on the weekly time frame, every single time that Bitcoin drops below, or the RSI drops below 30, it has bottomed exactly on the week. Bottomed there, bottomed here in 2018, and in June of this year, bottomed. So this is confluence, right? So we have all of these different indicators, all of these different things telling us that more than likely, if this trend continues, as it's been doing for all of Bitcoin's history, the bottom is in, and we're looking to higher highs. I'm not really listening to these people that are saying, well, I think it's going to 10K because of such and such reason. This is why I like looking at charts and data, because opinions are often wrong, but the market never is. And so the price action is the purest form of the market. If you're looking at the market, you're looking at the price, you're following the same patterns over and over. You don't have to listen to the noise of the media and all the media bias, and maybe you have some big corporation, some big hedge fund telling the media to say something to make people bearish so they can get buy-in liquidity without the price skyrocketing. There's all kinds of things that go on in the media. So I don't pay attention to any of that. I like looking at the price, and then there's very specific data points that I actually look at, such as for like CPI data and what interest rates are doing, things like that. But I try to stay away from all the noise of the media. So I personally think that the bottom's in. If I'm wrong, do I really care? No, because for example, if I buy in here at 20K, or in the case of Ethereum, if I buy in at 1300, do I really care if it goes down to 800 if I know in the next 5 to 10 years that Ethereum will be 100,000, 50,000 on the low end? You know, it doesn't really, it's inconsequential. You know, you're pinching pennies at that point. It just doesn't matter to me. You know, if you're looking at Bitcoin, for example, are you really going to care that much if you buy in at, and I'm not telling you to buy in. That is not what I'm doing. I'm just relaying my thoughts. You know, if Bitcoin goes to $1 million, are you going to be concerned that you bought in at 19,000 versus buying in at 15,000? You know, you're really not going to look back at that and say, gosh, you know, I really wish I would have bought it $5,000 cheaper. That's just not what goes through your mind. You're going to be sitting there, wow, I'm really happy that I bought some Bitcoin and now it's worth $1 million. Or in the case of Ethereum, you know, I'm really happy I bought an Ethereum and now it's at, blanking out here, you know, anywhere from $50,000 to $150,000 just within the next, I really think for Ethereum, I think that $20,000 to $70,000 is very likely within the next couple of years. This next bull cycle we're going on, within the next 10 years, I could see it going up to 300,000. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So until next time, I'll talk to you soon.